Hello, everyone, and welcome back to Teach and Wish. Today, we are entering one of the most fascinating areas of English literature, the Gothic novel. This is a literary world of ancestral mansions, ruined abbeys, secret passages, and spectral presences. Family curses, persecuted heroines, charismatic villains, and forbidden knowledge. But the Gothic is not simply a collection of frightening stories. It is much more than that. The Gothic novel explores deeply human emotions, such as fear and desire, but also guilt, repression, and anxiety. It investigates the limits of reason and the hidden side of modern society. In other words, the Gothic asks us to look at what civilization often tries to hide: violence, irrationality, trauma, superstition, and the return of the past. In this lesson, we are going to answer some essential questions. What is the Gothic novel? Why was it born in the 18th century? What are its main conventions? And later on, we will ask, why does this genre lead us towards Mary Shelley's Frankenstein? And if you find this lesson useful, don't forget to leave a like and subscribe to the channel for more clear lessons on English literature and language. So let's begin. The Gothic novel was born in the second half of the 18th century, and this is extremely significant. The 18th century is usually associated with the Enlightenment, reason and order, clarity, science, and progress. Philosophers and writers believed that human reason could explain the world and improve society. Yet, literature often reveals what a culture tries to repress. While the Enlightenment celebrated rational control, Gothic fiction began to explore everything that reason could not master: dreams, superstition, madness, violence, and the disturbing survival of the past. The first Gothic novel is generally considered to be Horace Walpole's The Castle of Otranto, published in 1764. Walpole presented the novel as if it were the translation of an ancient medieval manuscript. Of course, this is literary trick, but it was very effective because it created the illusion that the story came from a distant legendary past. Walpole's novel inaugurates a new mode of storytelling, combining history, legend, imagination, suspense, and fear. The plot can be summarized in 3 points. In the castle of Otranto, Prince Manfred tries to secure his dynasty after his son is mysteriously killed by a gigantic helmet. He attempts to marry his son's fiancée, Isabella, while supernatural signs reveal a hidden crime in the family's past. The story ends with the collapse of Manfred's power and the restoration of the rightful heir. With this novel, Walpole invented a new kind of narrative, mixing medievalism, fantasy, dynastic guilt. From this moment on, Gothic fiction became one of the most influential forms of European literature. But why do we call it Gothic? The word Gothic originally referred to the Goths, the Germanic peoples who were associated with the fall of the Roman Empire. Later, the term was used to describe medieval architecture like cathedrals, pointed arches, towers, cloisters, fortified residences. In the 18th century, however, Gothic began to suggest something ancient, irregular, mysterious, and emotionally intense. and opposed to classical harmony. So, when we speak of the Gothic novel, we are speaking of a genre that looks back to the Middle Ages but actually speaks about modern fears. This is a key idea. The Gothic seems to be about the past, but it is really about the anxieties of the present. The Gothic novel developed at a time of enormous historical change. At the end of the 18th century, Europe was shaken by the French Revolution. The revolution promised freedom, equality, and political transformation, but it also produced violence and terror. This historical tension enters Gothic fiction. Ancient houses, subterranean chambers, decaying abbeys, and aristocratic estates become symbols of oppression and of the weight of history. At the same time, monsters, family secrets, and supernatural events represent the return of what society has tried to bury. The Gothic novel, therefore, reflects a world in crisis. Old structures are collapsing, but the future is still uncertain. This explains why the genre becomes so powerful. It gives narrative form to a deep cultural anxiety, the fear that what has been repressed may come back. In the next part, we will look more closely at the main features of Gothic fiction, its setting, atmosphere, characters, and secrets.